Hello, welcome back. Got a quick update on a couple of things. One is I'm going to show you that Onshape's added a bunch of standard hardware. So the whole import of a part that I showed you earlier, it still applies, and for certain things outside of the hardware genre, you can definitely use that to grab models from other things. But they allow you to bring in some of the standard hardware parts. And because of that, it sort of makes what I did here with the socket head cap screws. You don't have to actually import them from McMaster-Carr or anybody. So I'll show you how to do that. And the second thing is that there are some issues when you're creating an assembly is getting all the mates right, and when things don't go right, what to do. First thing I'm going to do, or first thing I'm going to show, and this will be fairly quick, is that we're going to take this screw and we will delete it out. Now I'm going to show you that when you go to insert a part now, so you can go insert, the dialog's changed a little bit and you can go for standard parts. So in this case, we're going to go for metric, which is ISO, and it's a bolt and screw. You might have to come through here and choose these. I pre-selected them, so it's kind of keeping everything sticky and showing me exactly what I went through earlier. And then of course, the socket head cap screws. We had the M3. The length, I believe, was 5. If it's not, you can always come in and change this and choose some of the different lengths. And thread length, the same thing. You can start choosing some of this and material. I'm not too concerned about this as far as the material and everything goes, unless you're dealing with a bill of materials. I just want something to look proper in here. So then we have that. We can come down here. Now you can insert it. And what's really cool is that you can insert it closest to the selection or furthest from the selection. So if I chose this hole on this back side, it would actually insert the screw so that the head is on the other side if we use that. And this is one of those things where you just have to come in and experiment. What I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to do an insert, and I'm going to tell it to insert it over here on this guy right there. And you'll notice it snaps into place. I'll click and we're all good. So now we've got a screw in there that we needed without having to go through all that importing. Now that importing again is still important for other things that you might want to import from online. But this is a really quick way to not have to worry about a lot of this hardware. Now with mating and getting everything working properly can be a bear. And you know, I still suffer from it, and I've been doing CAD for 20 plus years. It's one of these things where you kind of have to come through and take a look at things. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hide. Let's see, there's a mate connector. Hide all mate connectors. There we go. So now they're just decluttering things. So if you see something there, like that mate connector was kind of annoying me, is you can right click on it and choose things like hide and sometimes suppress and all those other things. You'll notice that when we grab some of these parts in here and we try to drag it, so that'll rotate, but it doesn't seem to want to move around this arm. And why is it not moving around that arm? We're not sure. I can click and drag. That doesn't help. I'm going to click on the part so that the move dialog comes in, and we can try rotating it. And you'll notice that it's not allowing me to rotate. So there's something wrong with this link 4 with the mating on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on it, and we're going to come in here and show mates. You can also hide the mates once they're shown, like I was showing you before. But this way it'll show us the mates that may or may not be causing issues. Now you'll notice out of these mates, we have a concentric mate there. We got the fixed mate for the socket head cap screw. In this case, we have a concentric mate for the socket head cap screw, and then a red, this is the key thing, a red mate, which means that it's over defining things between the two right there. So I can click on this guy. And let's just do a right click and see what happens. We'll go edit revolute 8. So we're going to start identifying what's going on. And sometimes you'll find that a mate may have limits or something that is causing you issues. In this case, neither of these are checked, so we're not going to worry about that. Now, we're going to go through this again, actually. I'm going to see if I can do one thing. So edit revolute 8, minus the fact that the offset limits and stuff, you don't necessarily have to delete it to get a different style of mate on here. So if you come up here, you can hit revolute, and we're going to make this a cylindrical mate. So that means that it can move in and out along its axis as well as around the axis. And that would be this mate right here, the cylindrical mate. And now you'll notice I should be able to grab things and move them around. So now things are moving around and going the way they're supposed to be. So in this case, it was a reasonably easy fix to figure out kind of what's going on here and what may be happening. So What would cause something like this? Well, I'll show you one thing that I suspect may have caused this issue. We're going to take that part there and we'll hide them. Now we're going to come in here just a little closer. So when you were selecting, or when a person was selecting some of the mate points, or the points that you wanted it to mate around, if you came in and you happened to mouse over that circle, it would assume that you're trying to mate it face to face, but in depth, into the part where the countersink is, versus up here. So you have to be very cognizant of what you're selecting for your mate. And again, this is something that can be rectified fairly easily by changing the kind of mate and making that work. However, it's not always the best way to go about doing things. So this is one thing that you can do to make things work, or to get things to look proper. Let's just zoom out here. There is a second way that I can go about doing this. And this is sort of like when things get really frustrating and you're clicking on mates and you feel like you're spending too much time figuring things out. Okay, so now we're kind of back to where we're having issues. Now, you'll notice that when I come through here on this list, is in here, some of these mates are red. And generally, those are going to be where your problems are. And the fastest way that I've dealt with a lot of these things in the past is I come in and I select all the mates that are causing me issues. And I delete them. And once it's done, is take a look at this. We also have mates that are suppressed. Generally, try to keep everything active unless you're doing configurations, and that's for the future kind of things that you're going to work on. Is try not to suppress anything. Like suppress it to kind of check things out, but once you've figured out how to work around it, then delete it. So let's unsuppress the ones that are suppressed and see if they're going to cause us any issues. And so far so good. We don't see any red. Let's go through this and work out how to mate everything properly. Let's grab that guy. Yeah, that part moves. One thing I noticed is this guy. Here's another quick little trick, is sometimes when you select a couple of things, you end up going, I'm not sure what I selected and what I need to move. Double click in some of the white area and it deselects everything. It's a quick little trick. So we're going to grab onto him and find out if he is flexible. Yeah, he's flexible within everything. So now we know that we're going to have to add a specific kind of mate. We want to do a revolute mate. I'm going to select on there. Now, once I've hovered over this face, you know, there's a whole bunch of pieces, but if I come in here, I'm not sure if this is going to happen properly or not. Sometimes when you mouse over a different thing, it'll select different geometry and cause some issues, like right there. So right there, I was telling you how you can end up selecting this point, and that's not the point or the mate connector that you want. You actually want the mate connector that's up higher. So once you're into an area and you know that you're on the face that you want, press and hold the shift key, and that will lock you onto that face so that when you start selecting mate connectors, you're going to get the ones that you want. Let me zoom out here. And we're going to rotate around. And we want this one to be concentric with the other one, so let's mouse over that. Press and hold the shift key. Grab that mate connector. Now we've got everything, and you'll notice that the socket head cap screw didn't move with it. If you just want to see how things work before you actually commit to it, just hit the solve button, and that'll snap things back in and show you that, yeah, that mate will probably work for you. And hit the F key, and it's going to zoom out. So now we have this working out fairly well here. Let's just move this around so that we can see that we have the dynamics that we want. And you'll notice that when I'm trying to pull this one, these guys here, this arm and this arm, are staying at 90 degrees to this guy and not rotating around. That's generally a fairly good tip off that there's something wrong with the mates on these guys. So again, I'm going to select on this guy. I'm going to say show mates. I'm going to select on this guy and I'm going to say show mates. And we'll rotate this around and see. We know that we don't have anything that's red, but we know that something is causing issues. Generally, one of the best things you can do is take a look at all of this and go, you know, one of these things is not like the other, just like Sesame Street. And you can see that what we have here is this one mate. If we right click on it, it's a slider mate. And that's not what we want. the slider mate is locking everything down to where we don't want it to be. So I'm going to come in here, change that to cylindrical or revolute. In this case, just to make sure things work properly, we're going to change it to cylindrical. We're going to say OK. We're going to hopefully that worked. Double click in an area just to deselect everything, and we're going to grab onto this guy, go to a view that we know we can constrain all the motion that we want. And let's just see if we can move them around. And now we can move things the way we wanted them to be. And let's also grab this guy and move him. See if we move it down. The reason I'm doing this is that this guy here doesn't seem to want to move either. Oh, and he does. So it's just one of those things where the computer's trying to resolve everything. But in the meantime, this guy is fully constrained and will work properly. You might not want to see all these mate connectors anymore, so go and right click on top of one of them and say hide all mates, and you'll be good. So that's kind of the diagnostic procedure that I go through when I'm dealing with mating and everything. You know, the two different methods are is that you find the red ones in here, you right click on it and see if it's the wrong kind of mate or if it's constrained improperly. And if not, just delete it out and try again. The other way is just to come through and find everything that's red, delete it. Find anything that's suppressed, delete it. Move things around until you get everything locked down the way you want it, and you'll be done. Please give me a thumbs up below if you like this video, and leave any comments or questions you have below as well.